Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. You play the cartels. Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajakacharya Ashtottara Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajakacharya Ashtottara Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Okay. Narayanam Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and to Narayan Rishi, the supremest human being, and to Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashta Prayesha Badreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki By regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering devotional service to the pure devotee, all that is inauspicious within the heart is destroyed almost to nil, and loving devotion to the Supreme Lord, who is glorified in transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. So on this 10th day of June, 2024 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. So we'll be chanting Canto 7, Chapter 9, Text 24, again, reading the translation and purport, and then we're going to go on to 25 also. So since we did the word by words last time, we'll just go right into it. How's it going? Tasmadamustanubhratamahamashishodgya Ayushriyam vibhavam aindriyam avidinchat Nechamite vilulitanurvikramena Kalatmanopanayamam nijabritya parshvam Tasmadamustanubhratamaham ashishogya Ayushriyam vibhavam aindriyam avidinchat Nechamite vilulitanurvikramena Kalatmanopanayamam nijabritya parshvam. You can chant, go ahead. Tasmadamustanubhratamaham ashishogya Ayushriyam vibhavam aindriyam avidinchat Nechamite vilulitan uduvikramena Kalatmanopanayamam nijabritya parshvam. Give it a shot. Tasmadamustanubhratamaham ashishogya Ayushriyam vibhavam aindriyam avidinchat
Hare Krishna.
Nechamite vilulitanurvikramena Kalatmanopanayamam nijabritya parsham. Dhanavar, you want to try it?
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Tasmadamustanubhratamaham
Tasmadamustanubhratamaham ashishogya
Ayuhu sriyam vibhavam indriyamavirichyat
Ayushriyam vibhavam aindriyam avidinchat
Nechamite vilulitanurvikramena
Nechamite vilulitanurvikramena
Kalatmanopanayam nijabhrutya pasram.
Kalatmanopanayamam nijabritya parshvam.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Sure. All right, we're going to just read the translation and purport and then go on to the next verse. Prahlad Maharaj prayed to Lord Nrsingadev, "My dear Lord, now I have complete experience concerning the worldly opulence, mystic power, longevity, and other material pleasures enjoyed by all living entities, from Lord Brahma down to the ant. As powerful time, you destroy them all. Therefore, because of my experience, I do not wish to possess them. My dear Lord, I request you to place me in touch with your pure devotee and let me serve him as a sincere servant. Purport. By studying Srimad Bhagavatam, every intelligent man can get experience like that of Prahlad Maharaj through the historical incidents mentioned in this great literature of spiritual knowledge. By following in the footsteps of Prahlad Maharaj, one should gain thorough experience that all material opulence is perishable at every moment. Even this body, for which we try to acquire so many sensual pleasures, may perish at any time. The soul, however, is eternal. Nahanyate hanyamane sharire. The soul is never vanquished, even when the body is destroyed. An intelligent man, therefore, should care for the happiness of the spirit soul, not of the body. Even if one receives a body with a long duration of life, like those of Lord Brahma and the other great demigods, it will also be destroyed, and therefore an intelligent man should be concerned with the imperishable spirit soul. To save oneself, one must take shelter of a pure devotee. Narottam Das Thakur therefore says, Chadaya Vaishnava Seva Nistarapaye Chekeba. If one wants to save himself from material nature's onslaughts, which arise because of the material body, one must become Krishna conscious and try to fully understand Krishna. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita 4.9, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tattvataha. One should understand Krishna in truth, and this one can do only by serving a pure devotee. Thus Prahlad Maharaj prays that Lord Nrsimhadev place him in touch with a pure devotee and servant instead of awarding him material opulence. Every intelligent man within this material world must follow Prahlad Maharaj. Mahajano yena gata sapanta. Prahlad Maharaj did not want to enjoy the estate left by his father. Rather, he wanted to become a servant of the Lord. The illusory human civilization that perpetually endeavors for happiness through material advancement is rejected by Prahlad Maharaj and those who strictly follow in his footsteps. There are different types of material opulence, known technically as bhukti, mukti, and siddhi. Bhukti refers to being situated in a very good position, like a position with the demigods and the higher planetary systems, where one can enjoy material sense gratification to the greatest extent. Mukti refers to being disgusted with material advancement and thus desiring to become one with the Supreme. Siddhi refers to executing a severe type of meditation, like that of the yogis, to attain 8 kinds of perfection, anima, lagima, mahima, etc. All who desire some material advancement through bhukti, mukti, or siddhi are punishable in due course of time, and they return to material activities. Prahlad Maharaj rejected them all. He simply wanted to engage as an apprentice under the guidance of a pure devotee. So the next verse, before I recite it myself, when I saw the verse for the day, I was surprised and delighted because I'd memorized this verse, 40 years ago, and I'd completely forgotten it all this time. You know, I used to chant it regularly, but then they slip out of the memory. And then I said, oh, I know this one. This is a real nice verse. So here's the Sanskrit, and I'll tell you the translation. Kutrashisha shuti sukha megatrishni rupa kvedam kaleva damasheshada jambiroha nirvidyate natujano yadapiti vidvan kamanalam madulabai shamayandurapai. In this material world, every living entity desires some future happiness, which is exactly like a mirage in the desert. Where is water in the desert? Or in other words, where is happiness in this material world? As for this body, what is its value? It is merely a source of various diseases. The so-called philosophers, scientists, and politicians know this very well, but nonetheless they aspire for temporary happiness. Happiness is very difficult to obtain, but because they are unable to control their senses, they run after the so-called happiness of the material world and never come to the right conclusion. Purport. There is a song in the Bengali language which states, I constructed this home for happiness, but unfortunately there was a fire and everything has now been burnt to ashes. This illustrates the nature of material happiness. Sureshwar, are you with us? Not really. Sureshwar. Haribol Prabhu. This illustrates the nature of material happiness. Everyone knows it, but nonetheless one plans to hear or think about something very pleasing. Unfortunately, all of one's plans are annihilated in due course of time. There are many politicians who planned empires, supremacy, and control of the world, but in due time all their plans and empires, and even the politicians themselves, were vanquished. Everyone should take lessons from Prahlad Maharaj about how we are engaged in so-called temporary happiness through bodily exercises for sense enjoyment. All of us repeatedly make plans which are all repeatedly frustrated. Therefore, one should stop such plan making. As one cannot stop a blazing fire by constantly pouring ghee on it, one cannot satisfy oneself by increasing plans for sense enjoyment. The blazing fire is bhava-mahā-dāvāgni, the forest fire of material existence. This forest fire occurs automatically, without endeavor. We want to be happy in the material world, but this will never be possible. We shall simply increase the blazing fire of desires. Our desires cannot be satisfied by illusory thoughts and plans. Rather, we have to follow the instructions of Lord Kṛṣṇa, Sarva dharman parityajya mamekang sharanam vraja. Then we shall be happy. Otherwise, in the name of happiness, we shall continue to suffer miserable conditions. Om jnana timarandasya jnanandana shalakaya chakshur unmilitam mena tasmai shri gurave namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara, the disciplic succession. So Prahlad, if you recall his instructions to his friends, his classmates, the same theme was there. The same theme. It is foolish to dream about and strive for material happiness in this world. Because this verse is very dramatic, actually. It says, Kutrashisha, what is the use of all of these aspirations to enjoy in this middle? Kva means, kutra means where, and kva in the next means where, and it's a kind of an idiom. Kva. It's used in Sanskrit to mean, what is this, and what is this, and what is the point? So Shruti Sukha. Shruti Sukha means most of the happiness is there in hearing about it. In thinking about how I'm going to enjoy it. It's all in the aspiration and in the thinking about it, and then finally you get it, and inevitably you become satiated, you get burned out, or it disappoints, because the soul is hankering after eternal happiness. This is what we've lost by leaving the spiritual world, and that happiness has its reflection. Perverted reflection in this world and sense gratification. Go and ask him. Tell him they can sit out in the patio, but don't make noise next to the door. So this is a perverted reflection. So since we've forgotten completely about what real pleasure is, which is serving Krishna, we get absorbed in the reflection of it. Or what here, the perfect analogy, the mriga-trishna. Mriga-trishna means that which the deer thirsts after. Or that's what's an animal. In other words, the mirage in the desert. This is the same analogy appears again and again in the Bhagavatam, in the prayers of Akrura. I forget the Sanskrit. But he also talks about that. That the ordinary conditioned soul is just like someone in he doesn't know he's standing at the border of an oasis. And there's a nice cool pool right by his feet, but he doesn't know about it. You see, and he looks out in the desert, oh, there's a nice lake, I'll go out and swim out there. And he runs out there and you die, or an animal runs out and dies. So that's what we're running after. We're running after these, what Prabhupada would call the perfect word, phantasmagoria. A phantasmagoria is something that you envision or dream in this world, and you become obsessed with it. But ultimately it's just a phantasm. It's not real. And that's exactly what the material world is. So Shruti Sukha, you hear about it, you visualize yourself enjoying it. You have to give it at least 15 feet when you have a kid like that. Alberola, yeah, you're in pants. That'll be more authoritative. Well, let him into the lounge. Sorry. So, Mrigatrishni Rupa, it has the nature of a mirage, which means that it always disappoints. It entices you to go, and then when you get there, it's not there. And that's the nature of material happiness. It ultimately disappoints you. And as the verse just keeps coming up, because it's a central theme in our books, the pleasures that come by contact with the senses of the sense objects is the source of all misery. Because you become disappointed, and eventually you get older, and eventually you die, and you're dreaming about all those things that you enjoyed, and you come back again. And if you have no touch with the Vedic regulations and so forth, then you become so sinful and you suffer like anything. So that's what Prahlad Maharaj is just giving this. And then what is the body? The body is our vehicle for enjoyment. Whether it's the subtle body or the gross body, it's still the body we have. A Sheshuru Jambiroha is simply a repository of all kinds of diseases. In other words, eventually, the body becomes unable to enjoy. I was reading about this incredible thing. Euthanasia. You know what euthanasia is, right? When doctors, when a person is so ill, they're suffering and everything, and they agree, yes, you can put, sleep.
Is that the same as assisted suicide?
Yeah. Basically the same thing. But assisted suicide is they give you something to commit suicide. It's authorized. The patient does it. But here the doctor does it with the patients. Similar thing. So now it's becoming common. People don't have any physical disease, but they're so depressed and so down on themselves that they can't stand to live, but they're afraid to commit suicide, so they can get euthanasia. Not in this country, but in Holland and stuff like that. You can imagine that. And what is that? It's just disappointment. It's just weighing your child died, or they ran away, or your husband left you, or whatever, some horrible situation. And then you go through something. You join the army, and they send you overseas, and you're in the middle of a battle, and you finally you shoot, and you go into the hut or some house, and there's 6 dead kids in there, and you're responsible. It's called a moral injury, and this oftentimes weighs upon them to get out of the army, and it's just terrible. This is So there's all kinds of things like that in the material world, and ultimately it's you got to leave it. You may be a billionaire, you may be a vagrant on the street, but whatever you got, you're going to leave that card, or you're going to leave that billions and billions of dollars behind and go you know not where. Everybody, ripped out of the body, and so he's giving this nirvidyate. But even if one is very intelligent, vidvan, so-called learned philosophers, scientists, politicians, right? They don't become satiated. Nirvidyate na, vidvan, because you're too busy trying to extinguish the fire of lust with these drops of sense gratification. Madhu is like honey-like drops of sense gratification, which are very difficult to obtain. So this is the nature of the material world. And Prahlada said, I don't want to have anything to do with it, And he gives you, I was born into this family of demons who are always dedicated. That's what it means to be demoniac. Always concerned only with my own sense gratification, ready to step on anybody, like Hiranyakashipu. Hiranya, gold, and soft bedding, and have the facility for sense gratification. I don't have to go into detail. But what happened? He was ultimately vanquished, just as his brother was, all the demons are. And if not directly by Krishna, by the force of time. So Prahlad is giving us instruction, and everyone instruction, very dramatically. These prayers are incredible. Of what we should aspire for. This again and again, this comes up in the Bhagavatam. I was going to look up a verse, but I didn't have a chance. Nanaka Prishtam. There's a verse that is repeated, practically verbatim. The Nagapatnis, they utter it, and others. And what they're saying is, I don't desire to have the rule of this universe like Lord Brahma. You see, I don't want to be, some wealthy mandarin down on earth or whatever. Gives a whole list of things that people usually aspire for. I don't even want liberation. Liberation is Bhagavatam at the very beginning says Dharma project kaita votra. Those are the first words of the second verse of the whole Bhagavatam. No cheating Dharma in this book. And that includes ways in which you can get liberation. Aspiring for liberation is ultimately a selfish desire. It's not a desire to serve Krishna. It's the desire that I can be free at last from birth, old age, disease, and death. You don't realize that even if you make it up there to freedom, you haven't worshipped the Lord. You haven't developed your bhakti. You're just free. Is that the goal of life, to be free of pain and completely healthy and just to sit? Not doing anything. There's no one there. Can you be happy there? I just heard Prabhupada in a lecture this morning say, there's that famous verse Prabhupada would always quote, Yen ye adavindaksiva muktamaninas tvayasta bhava dabashuddha buddhya aruha kṛṣṇa padang tata patantyado anadvija yushmarangriya. The demigods are praying to Krishna in the womb of Devaki. They're hidden away, but the prayers are very dramatic in the dungeon of Kamsa. And this is the verse Prabhupada always quotes. Besides the bhaktas, there are others, ye anye, oh lotus-eyed Lord, who think that they're liberated if they are able to, attain the Brahma Jyoti. How? By severe austerities. We don't often think about it, but actually the process that we're engaged in is very scientific in generating this vairagya, which is essential for advancement. Vairagya means detachment from all of these material attractions, you see. It goes with knowledge, it goes with faith. So there's different ways you can try to attain that. Hopefully this will help. You can try to attain it, as Krishna talks about it in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, going alone, getting away from all the temptations, practicing meditation, and systematically, controlling the senses, those 8 processes, pratyahara, not detached from the senses, pranayama, calm down the mind and make the body healthy and strong, and think of the Lord within. That's kind of more personalist because it's super soul, But still, many of these yogis, they're thinking of something impersonal. They're thinking of the Brahma Jyoti or just chanting Om, right? And so they may attain some peace and they may attain some siddhis. And oftentimes they get distracted by that. It's like these like Durvasa Muni. He was a great yogi, right? But he was envious because Ambarish is getting all the honor. Real yogi, bhakti yogi, you're never envious of anyone. If you're enjoying the pleasure within by serving Krishna, then you never become envious of anyone, because you try to give them. You realize that they're missing out, Your heart is softer. So, but practicing severe austerities don't make you humble and kind, puffed up. So anyway, this verse says that by great austerity, just imagine what it was like. I just give this example. We may not think of it like this, but this process of yoga produces the great effect of vairagya, for material things, and raga, attachment to Krishna, by chanting the holy name, by exposing ourselves to all the attractions things of Krishna, the form, qualities, the prasad, the association, the kirtan, all of these things. This is giving us not only attachment to Krishna, because he's all attractive, but detachment from Maya. And the yogis are trying to do it by force. That's what they do it, Kṛṣṇa. Doesn't it sound like severe austerities? It's one of these onomatopoeias, right? Kṛṣṇa. Aruha Kṛṣṇa param padam. The word param padam means supreme abode, but it's not the Goloka Vrindavan, it's just the Brahma Jyoti. They go to the Brahma Jyoti. But then tatak patantyado, they fall down again. Anadvida yushmarangriya, because they're averse to serving your lotus feet. They haven't developed any attraction. And it just gets, as Maharaj put it yesterday, boring up there. You know, how long can you be happy that, oh, I'm free of birth, old age, disease, and death? Now I'm completely satisfied. Hello, is there anything to eat around here? You know, I mean, it's like, anyone, you know, it's just illusory. So that's included in here. Shruti Sukha. You hear about it, but ultimately it's not substantial. It's a Mrigatrishni Rupa. And then you're trying to do it with the body, which by nature is perishable. And it doesn't just perish, it degrades, it become... Who is it we heard? Hemingway? Oh, I think I heard that on a tape. I'm listening to him. That probably he had heard someone had committed suicide because he couldn't have sex anymore. Someone, oh, Ernest Hemingway. I had forgotten that. I didn't know that. He was this famous author who wrote all these things, you know. But he was just, oh, if I can't have sex, what's the use of life? You know. See how pathetic it is. That's the you know, so many instances you can see how you get entangled in that. And you know, the Bhagavatam is filled with it, these lessons. Who is it? Salbari Muni? You know, this is very instructive. He's meditating in the Yamuna. You know, why not just take a bath in the Yamuna, get out and just go around Vrindavan? You know, no, I'm meditating. So naturally, who do they have to associate with? The fish? You know, all right, associate with the fish, and I think it was he who did he curse Garuda because he came and ate a big fish. All right, well, that itself is not a very good idea. So he's living, and he sees the fish copulating, and he becomes agitated. Come on, where is the detachment? He's you know, the severe austerities, but he wasn't getting the higher taste, right? Was it you quoted the verse? Oh no, the Vavasayatma Kambud here. But in that same second chapter, Vishayavani Vartante, Ninahara Siddhi, Vasavajam Vasabhyasya Padam Jishandavartate. I remember when I first read this verse, I said, oh yeah, this sounds like exactly what's going on. I just joined, you know, you're getting the higher taste, therefore you're losing your taste for the Lord. So what this verse says, very important, Vishaya, and I always point out, isn't Sanskrit a wonderful language? Vishaya is sense gratification. Visha is poison. Just the language itself can teach you so much. So you can, by detachment, by force of, you know, forcibly giving it up, you can stop engaging in sense gratification for some time. That's what this says. Vishayava nivartante nidahara siddha. If you don't consume them for some time, out of, you know, association, or you go to the fat farm or something, you know, you can no more ice cream, you know, like okay, because you have association. So you can do that for a while, but you're not getting rid of the desire. Eventually, you have to leave that association and walk down, and there's, you know, there's the ice cream parlor, or for most people there's the bar, you know, and everything. And if you haven't got rid of desire, eventually you're going to leave it. But Padam Drishta Navartate, and this Padam Drishta, Padam stands in for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Drishta is, of course, seeing, but it means experiencing through all the senses, hearing and tasting with the prasadam, everything. So then you don't return, because you uproot the very desire. And this was the whole theme of the first chapter of the 6th canto, if you recall. We heard that very bracing, if you read it again, you know, anyone has Vedabase I.O., you can read it. The last chapter of the 5th canto was all about hell. Yeah, and it's just a sample. If you get into illicit sex, then after death, they'll have an iron molten form, you know, red hot iron form of the opposite sex, whether you're a man or a woman. And then for ages, you'll have to embrace that. It'll seem like ages on the subtle point, but it'll be real to you. You're embracing that, screaming, yelling. Great. You know, was it worth it? If you know that's going to happen, is it worth it? So it's supposed to be a deterrent, but Pariksit, being so merciful, he said, how can they be saved? Right? How can people be saved from this? So Shukadev tested him. First he described, what is it, brahmacharyam, I forget, the system of brahmacharya, of austerity, tapasya, so like that. And so in this way you can atone. You can have a parascharya. No, it's a prayashchitta. Thank you, prayashchitta. So, but Pariksit was too, you know, he was too smart for that one. He said, yeah, but it's like the bathing of the elephant, Kundra Shoshavat. Because you may do that, but you're not uprooting the desire, and then eventually you'll have to, you know, engage again. So Shukadev congratulated him, yes, you got it right. So then he he gave the story of a Jamil who was fixed in, he was a fixed Brahmin. He went out into the forest to get wood, which is a classic thing, to serve the guru and get the wood for the sacrifice. And he sees a low-class couple embracing, having sex out there, So it just agitates him. He can't forget it. So he becomes attached to the prostitute, marries the prostitute. He had a wife, very chaste wife, gave all it up. In other words, he became completely overwhelmed. And he fell down his whole lifetime. But because he chanted, because he had the presence of mind to name his youngest son Narayan, then when the Yamadutas came, he was ready to leave, he called out Narayan, and he was saved. And he was enlightened by the conversation and so forth, and he was able to, So the power of the holy name there is so important in protecting you against the allurements of the material energy and attracting you to Krishna, which is the essence of what it's all about, we're trying to do. We have a certain ability, the soul, to become attracted and to love and to engage, you see. If we don't do it with Krishna and in the spiritual world, we're going to do it with the material energy. But the problem is, it's all temporary. The pleasures are temporary. You can't get any permanent pleasure that way. But Krishna is always enjoying his anandamaya abhyasat. If you can develop your consciousness such that you're taking pleasure in giving Krishna pleasure, you're home free. Because his pleasure is endless. Then you'll always be in pleasure. You see? But to get there, Trinana Pisuni Chena, and you have to enter into association, and association first with a realized soul who can really. This is such a dramatic scene in the 11th canto. After Pururava, it was Pururava and Urvashi, I think. He finally renounces from Urvashi. This is a heavenly damsel came down. I think he was doing austerities. Indra felt he was going to take his place. That whole thing. And she tricked him. He said, "Okay, I'll stay with you, but as long as I never see you naked, unless we're going to have sex." This is the level it was on. So I said, "No problem." So she had some calves, I think, and pet calves, and so this is all planned. In the middle of the night, they got loose, So Pururava said, "Oh, I can go get him." He goes out and brings the calves. Like, yeah, but you're all naked. And we're not having sex, so I'm gone. I'm out of here. She goes back to the heavenly planet and said, "Oh, he's lamenting. What do I, So once a year, he can go up there, right?" On and on like that. So this is finally the Ila Gita. It's a song of renunciation. Have you ever read that? Yeah, the Ila Gita. It's in the 11th canto. I think it's part of the Uddhava Gita. I said, "Oh, why did I get so, entangled in the lips of Urvashi, worshiping him worse than a worm in stool, So he's got this song of renunciation. And then at the end of that, Krishna speaks this verse, which is a very important verse. And he says, Tato duksangam utsrija satsu sajjeta buddhiman santa eva sit chindandi manovyasangam uktibi. So very important. So first of all, manovyasangam, V is an intensifier. So that's in this word. The very strong attachments of the mind that are in the mind over many lifetimes. So this verse deals with that. So he says, therefore, duk sangam, bad association. We want sadhu sangha, not duk sangam. Dur or duk means bad, Dukkha means pain. So duk sangam utsrija, give it up. Not just give it up, but throw it far away, renounce it, finish it. Utsrija. And satsu sajjeta, and associate with satsu, with the saints, with the devotees. Buddhiman, intelligent people. Use your intelligence and do that. Why? Santa eva chindandi manavasam uktibi. With their words, uktibi. The saints, the sages, can cut out, can excise the very strong desires that are developed in your mind over many lifetimes by their words. And those words are here in the Bhagavatam, both in the verses and in Prabhupada's strange purports. If you actually have faith, developing that faith is key. And you develop that through association. Everything is developed through association. The faith is developed through association. And so Prahlad is part of that association. We're getting his association, Prabhupada's association, Narada Muni, But there's one purport, you maybe recall, I think it's the first canto, at the end Prabhupada says, we want to thank Narada Muni for so kindly appearing in these pages of the Bhagavatam. Prabhupada is feeling that, when he's reading, he's actually associating. He would look at these paintings and he would see them as windows to the spiritual world. That's mean he's really there. He's in there's the kirtan. Oh, there's Ram. He's actually there. Imagine, that's such a gift. Dhriti's gonna, I don't know, Dhriti Devi's gonna come and paint these deities soon, I think, right? You know when? And she's one of the finest painters. She's given so many gifts. I mean, one of my favorite paintings of all time, you probably noticed, Krishna's sitting on the bank. He's ready to play his flute. And there's a little half-eaten pear that they took a bite out of, that's sitting on I don't know if you've noticed that. But it's such a delightful painting, so attractive. And, you can imagine that, I got attracted to the paintings when I first visited the temple. I bought a couple of posters. I had my own apartment in Long Island, and I put up this poster of the Super Soul in the Heart. Jadurani had painted. She was the first painter. And this Super Soul has such a merciful, kind, loving face, I would meditate on, chant Hare Krishna. And I remember I had my job and this and that. I was going to the temple, chanting a couple of rounds. And so I was begging to this picture, this new Super Soul, please arrange something so I can take the next step, because I was kind of stuck, and I had a little bank account and everything, car. No girlfriend, so, but, and so anyway, next day, there was a notice on the board. I was working in the hospital as an inhalation therapist. I'd done it for a year. I already got 1 week's vacation, paid vacation, which I used for a yoga retreat, and anyway. But I was kind of stuck in the rut. So next morning, there was this clipping on our little bulletin board there. And it was an advertisement for another job in another hospital, which happened to be a lot closer to where I was living. And it was a night shift. And I was saying, this is what I need. I'll work and, I'll sleep a few hours in the morning, 8 to 11 or something, then I can drive into the city every day and do my yoga, this is just what I need. So I had a good record and they gave me a good recommendation, so I applied for the job. And the first week was training. It was a much smaller hospital. And so training was simple. I already knew most of the stuff. And so the next week, okay, you're on your own, go for it. So there I was, and there was hardly anything to do because it was much smaller. It was night, and it was a much smaller hospital. So that was one thing. But the other thing was, I swear, I'd been eating raw food for like a couple of years, and doing all this yoga and stuff, chanting. And so I was sensitized, and there's a lot of ghosts in those hospitals. People die all the time, And I just felt spooked. There was hardly anything to do, and I walked through there, so finally, I really wanted to join the temple, because I was, and so I said, I quit. So now I didn't have a job, and I said, well, I might as well join, So then I thought of it, oh, this is the plan, the Super Soul, this is how he helped me, put that clipping up and everything, That's the way I saw it anyway. But you see that Krishna is arranging things in your life. If you make some effort toward him, especially chanting. If you're regularly chanting, then you're going to feel the attraction for Krishna and the desire to do more, and mostly to hear more, to read. I was reading the Krishna book. Krishna book was too much Leela for me at that point, because I was, kind of impersonalist. But when I read the TLC with all the philosophy, that really got me going. So anyway, I don't want to give, but this is such a wonderful verse. So what is the use of all of these aspirations to enjoy the material life? Most of the enjoyment is just hearing about it, shruti sukha, the anticipation, But then when you're going to do it, it's like a mirage. You did it, you got it, and then I give the example of the the family. They're not very wealthy. They're living in Kansas City or something, and they have 3 kids, and they aspire to one day be able to go to Disneyland in California, And so they save up, and they buy one of these mobile homes, or anything. And they're on their way, and the kids, in the back, and they're making a fuss, And finally they get there, and it costs a lot of money to pay all these kids, And they take the videos, and then finally they have to come back, and then, okay, we did it. And then what do they have? They have the memories, you know, they have the videos they can watch, you know. But ultimately, what is it? You know, the kids grow up and it's nothing. And that's exactly what all the material sense gratification is. It's just a mirage. And then what are you doing with the body? The body is a notoriously bad vehicle for enjoyment because it burns out. You see? And it gets old and you can't enjoy after a while. You've got the memories and you can't do it, so that's totally depressing. Kvedam kalevanam. What is this body? It's a source of all kinds of diseases. But even if one is intelligent, the philosophers and so forth, vidvan, they don't become nirvidyate. They don't give it up. They don't become detached or satiated with this effort to enjoy sense gratification because they're so absorbed in trying to extinguish the blazing fire of lust with these tiny drops of honey-like sense gratification. This is birth after birth. You can do that. But if you get the association of a devotee and you're a little bit faithful, you come to the temple, you read the book and you start chanting, then there's hope. You experience another kind of pleasure, another kind of spiritual pleasure. And the more that you serve and don't serve your senses but serve Krishna, the more you feel that pleasure. And there's always these festivals coming on. We had this festival here, and now you can look forward to the Rath Yatra. I have a friend who lives in Alatra now. He used to be here. He was here with us back in the late 80s. His name was Prabhupada Das. This is the first Prabhupada Das, not the one who stayed here. And he's a sannyasi now. I forget his name. It's a long name. Bhakti Damodar Vrata sannyasi or something. But he wrote to me. He wanted to get some responsible publishings and so forth. And he tells the story how he came. You know, he saw Prabhupada in 26 Second Avenue, and he was interested, and he came, but he was attached to his girlfriend, sex life, you know. So he couldn't join at that time. And it took him years, you know, before finally he came back and joined in Boston. And it's just a great story. So this is, you know, very instructive. And Prabhupada is giving these wonderful, you know, there's a song in Bengali, I built a house, but it wrecked, you know. And that's the story of everyone. I had this dream, you know, and joy, I could make so much money, but now everything is turned to dust. Here I am in this hospital, I can hardly walk, you know, or whatever it is, you know. Or some disaster, you die suddenly and then everything comes flooding in, your karma takes you who knows where. So we're very fortunate to be practicing devotional service, and we should, you know, increase our bhajan, our focus on the holy name and the preaching, so that we'll increase our taste more and more and become very enlivened. To practice Krishna consciousness, and as Prahlad himself says at the end of his prayers, and to give Krishna consciousness to others. Otherwise, he's in great anxiety. The second half of the famous verse of I'm fine. I have no problems. Anytime, any place, I can sing your glories and dive into an ocean of nectar. You know, but I am in anxiety. Shoche, I'm lamenting because of all these fools and rascals have turned away from you. Vimukha-cetasa, for the sake of indriyartha, sense gratification. Indriyartha maya sukhaya, trying to enjoy my illusory happiness, bottom. We're bearing the great burden of trying to arrange to enjoy these things. Making the money, getting the situation, keeping the health, and then it's a great burden. Vimudhan, they're so foolish. So the next verse, I'm not going to do the whole verse, but it says, therefore, I need to stay among the cities, you know, in order to preach, in order to give people a chance to hear about you. Because there's no shelter but you, O Lord, and I can give them you, and therefore this is my duty to preach. All right, I'll end there. Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you. One question, and then I have a comment. What did you say about that soldier when he goes in that village and he sees 6 kids? It's called the moral
Moral injury.
Moral injury.
Yeah, yeah. Because, you know, some decent kid grows up, you know, and then he's put into he goes into the army, he gets sucked into that. It happened, you know, many, many times with the Vietnam, you know, war. We had 50,000 troops there at one point. And they would go into these villages. I remember, I mean, I wasn't in the army. I was, no question of that. But I remember seeing this picture. It stays in my brain to this day. And it's very famous. There was dropping this, the palm. You know, I don't know if you've studied it. You have to go? Okay, Prabhu, Haribo. And there's people running from the village. And there's this little girl, naked girl, she's like 11 years old maybe. And she's running, and, you know, obviously something's on her body, burning, you know, she's screaming and yelling. And that picture, innocent people, you know, getting bombed and this. And I wasn't in the army, but I didn't want to participate in it in the sense of even getting a job, paying taxes and things like that. Like you can imagine, you know, on the ground seeing it. Guys dropping the bombs, they may not go through it so much. But if you're confronted with that and you realize this is horrible what I'm doing, you know, and that's, it leaves a tremendous impression on you, and you know, you feel horrible the rest of your life. Moral injury.
One more. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was at Balboa Park, and there was this young man, nicely dressed, you know. He said, "Oh, I just finished my interview." And I said, "What are you going to do now?" And I said, "Oh, I have a date, you know. I'm going to meet up with the girl." And then I just went like this and said, "What?" And I said, "You're going to be disappointed." And he said, "How do you know?" And I said, "Trust me." So, you know, he said, "I'll stop by after my date, you know, the meet and greet, I guess." So he came back, and then he had his hands in his pocket, and I said, "How did it go?" And then he said, "She was into me." So like you said, you know, the anticipation.
Yes, yes.
And then he got a book.
Yeah. See, that's the great thing about, you know, Krishna, is that only God can actually maintain personal relationships with like millions and millions and trillions of people. But it's a fact. If you do a little service for Krishna, you can feel the connection, especially if you're in association devotees, you know. And so that's what we're looking for in a relationship, some reciprocation. And so to have that always available, you know, no matter where you are, you can chant. Like I'm telling you, these slokas I've been chanting, you know, for now 50 years. It never fails, because you're engaging the intelligence. You're meditating on, you know, some beautiful thing of Krishna or some lesson that he's given, Bhagavad Gita, and he's there. He's hearing it. It's right there in the Shastra. Srimad Krishna Punya Shavana Kirtana Vidyandakstoya Badani Vidunoti Suditsata. That Haribo. So if you hear about Krishna, you know, from the right source, and you hear with faith and with attention, Svakata Krishna Punya, which brings piety just by hearing, Vidyandakstoya Badrani, he's in the heart and he cleanses away the abhadras. So as soon as your heart becomes cleaner, not completely clean, then you're more attracted to everything about Krishna. That's part of being clean, because in the complete purity, you're in total love of Krishna. So that, you know, to learn that you have this capacity in every one of us, in our heart, for this unlimited, ever-increasing ocean of happiness, you know, that's a great revelation. And to have faith in that, because it's so, you know, that faith is the essential thing. Because we approach everything with whatever mentality we have, we judge it, you know. And to many people it sounds like Pollyanna. In other words, it sounds like some pipe dream candidate. No, I got to work, I have to make the money, I have to do this, you know, and I can buy it, then I can go on a date in the Saturday night. That's my, you know, whatever, you know. But that's all in Mrigatrishni. But this is not a Mrigatrishni, this is reality. Krishna's there, you know, and if you can feel that even a little bit, it can keep the interest going. And then we have, you know, a job as devotees to give good association so people are attracted to come and chant Hare Krishna. Thank you for that. Okay, anyone online?
Thank you so much, Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. Very, very nice class, Prabhu. Thank you so much for the nectar and the sharing on your experience.
I have one question for you, Dhanavari.
Yes, Prabhu.
When are we going to see you in your Vapu form?
I'm coming on 26, Prabhu. 26 of this month.
Okay. You're just coming for a visit?
No, I'll be there.
You're returning. Okay, good.
Yes.
Are you going to take up your book distribution program like you had before?
Yes, Prabhu. That's my plan, Krishna willing, if everything goes
Okay,
well.
great.
Yes.
Great. All right, we're looking forward to seeing you again.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare
Haribol.
Krishna. Thank you.
Haribol. Sure.
Haribol.
All right.
Hare Krishna, I have a question, if you have time.
Go ahead. One short one.
Prabhu, we keep hearing in the Bhagavatam classes that we should be Trinadapi Shunyachana. So what does it mean to be Trinadapi Shunyachana? Does it mean low self-esteem or not arguing anyone with philosophical things?
I don't know, Tapas. I think it's my ears are going. I couldn't really decipher what you said. Can anyone tell me what he said?
So what does it mean? Does it mean low self-esteem or not arguing with someone?
Oh, what does it mean? What does it mean that what? Oh, Trinadapi Shunyachana. Oh, yeah, to be more humble than a blade of grass. What that means?
He's asking, does it mean having low self-esteem?
Yeah.
Not arguing with someone?
No, that's a confusion. It's not low self-esteem. It's just understanding. First of all, we should know that we're super fortunate. Not that we're going to go around, but we're super fortunate to be in the situation where if we feel ourselves and we really are, we're helpless. I mean, every breath, everything that we're doing, we're completely dependent on Krishna, but it's to give us a supply, whether it's air, water, peace of mind, whatever it is, it's all coming from God. So in that respect, we recognize our dependence on the Lord, and realistically understanding that whatever powers we have, they're also given by Him. And so we learn, and this is where the Acharya comes in and the Shastra, because it's not self-evident from just living in the material world. Otherwise, we all be realized souls. But that the process of using those gifts for service to the Lord and realizing that everything we have is ultimately coming from Him, that naturally makes us very humble. Is that because otherwise the false ego is that I got a strong body, I can figure out my thing. You're Hare Krishnas. This is a slave mentality. Forget it. And so, but that's just the opposite. So humble means to be so humble that you recognize that everything you do should be within the realm of service to the Guru and the devotees and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and even the poor souls who are ignorant of Krishna. You are also serving them in a very important way by giving them knowledge. So it really is inseparable from the service attitude. Humble means that I don't know what's best for me, but now I've learned a little bit, and so I'm going to try to act in such a way that I'm really in my constitutional position of dependence and understanding that Krishna, as he promises and as I feel, He's my best friend, He's my eternal Father, and all those who are serving, and my home is in the spiritual world. And so that sense of humility really opens the door to real advancement in devotional service. You know what I mean? It's not that it's low self-esteem. It's understanding that, I'm an eternal spirit soul, and I have a place in the spiritual world. Now I simply have to recognize my position and learn how to serve Krishna and take pleasure in that. And that's one of the things that's so great. What's the basic service we do is chant Hare Krishna. And if you really advance in that, by getting rid of all the anarthas and working hard in sadhana, then it becomes more and more pleasurable. You're not doing it to enjoy. You're doing it to please Krishna. But that itself is the greatest pleasure. That is the miracle. And again, I'm going to quote this one line, and then we have to end it up. This is from a purport in the second canto to that verse. I think it's 2, 3, 10, I believe. Akama savakamo va mokshakama hodara diti vrena bhakti yogeni jeta purusham param. Whether one is free of material desire, you know, or full of all material desires, or want liberation, everyone should engage in intense devotional service to the Supreme Person, Krishna. And in that purport, there's a quote from the Sandarbhas. I don't know exactly which one. Jiva Goswami Prabhupada says, and here it is. It's just a phrase that encapsulates the essence of bhakti. Bhajaniya padama purusha sukha matra swasukatvam. So Bhajaniya Purusha is the worshipable Supreme Personality of Godhead. Bhajaniya Padama Purusha, the Supreme Person who is worshipable. Sukha. Sukha means happiness. Matra means only. So only the happiness of the Supreme Person, Krishna, swasukatvam, should give us happiness. We should seek our happiness and pleasure by giving pleasure to Krishna and Krishna's devotees, which even gives them more pleasure. And we find that there's an endless ability to do that. There's no restriction, you see? And there's no time restriction. And there's no age restriction, caste restriction, nothing. It's just, are you a spirit soul? Everyone can say yes, then you're eligible to do this. So that's where the Trinada Pisunich, by recognizing our position, not wanting anything for ourselves, wanting only for Krishna, but then that's the greatest happiness. It's paradoxical. If you want the greatest happiness, forget all about your happiness and think always of Krishna's happiness, the happiness of the devotees and the poor souls, and then you'll be eternally happy. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol.
Yeah. Thank you for a nice answer. It's very inspiring.